Snow clung to the window ledges like it was trying to hold the old orphanage together. Sister Marin stood at the warped sill, staring at the courtyard where the children huddled around each other for warmth. Her hands trembled as she folded them, not in prayer but in fear. Thanksgiving morning had come, and the pantry was nothing but echoes. She had already done the unthinkable that dawn. She told the children there would be no feast this year. The silence afterward had been the kind that bruised. But the real blow landed an hour later, when a sharp knock rattled the front door, 3 slow thuds, like someone knocking with the weight of a heart full of unfinished business. Sister Marin froze. No one came out this far unless they needed something, or were running from something. She cracked the door just enough to glimpse a shape on the porch, a folded piece of parchment pinned by a single iron nail. Not a soul in sight. Only the wind tugging at her shawl. She pulled the parchment free, unfolding it with stiff fingers. Inside was one line, written in a hand both elegant and strangely weary, for the children. R. Before she could make sense of it, a shout rose from the courtyard. Sister Marin. Sister, come quick. She hurried outside, boots crunching through thin snow. The children were gathered around the front gate, pointing at something just beyond the fence. Her breath caught in her throat. There, hitched to the rail as if it had arrived on its own, stood a weathered buckboard wagon. Canvas tarp, frost-laced edges, a lantern still warm. And beneath that tarp, shapes, barrels, sacks, boxes stacked to bursting. She approached with slow, unbelieving steps. Her fingers lifted the edge of the canvas. Inside were potatoes, flour sacks, smoked hams, jars of apples, tins of beans, coffee, even a crate of early winter oranges. Enough food to feed her children for weeks. Behind her, whispers rose, fear, awe, confusion. Who would do this? Is it a trick? Is someone watching us? Sister Marin didn't know. But the parchment in her hand grew heavier the longer she stared at it. A gift like this didn't arrive without a story riding on its back. And before the children could celebrate, one of the older boys tugged at her sleeve. Sister, look. Far down the road, barely visible through the swirling snow, a lone rider had stopped his horse. He wasn't moving. Just watching. Then the rider turned his horse and vanished into the tree-line. The tarp billowed behind her like a held breath. Something wasn't right. And whatever this gift was, it came attached to a stranger who clearly wasn't done with them yet. The wagon was hauled inside the courtyard, and children swarmed it like bees drawn to warmth. But Sister Marin kept her distance, clutching the parchment as if it were a live coal. She found Eli Turner, 15, quiet, and sharp-eyed, standing apart from the excitement. He stared at the forest where the rider had vanished, jaw set in a way that made him seem older than his years. You saw him too, she murmured. He nodded. Tall man. Wide brim hat. Didn't look afraid of being seen. Do you recognize him? No, Eli said. But he rode like someone who expects to be followed. Those words gnawed at her. Inside, the children were already pulling open crates, marveling at the bounty. Sacks of grain. Fresh loaves. A wrapped wheel of cheese. It felt like a miracle, too convenient, too perfectly timed. Sister Marin stepped forward, raising her voice. Everyone back. Please. The children froze. We don't know who left this, she said gently. And kindness from a stranger in the West, often means something is expected in return. A murmured unease passed through the group. Little Anna, her cheeks red from cold, tugged Marin's skirts. But sister, we're hungry. That simple truth cut through law, logic, fear. It exposed what truly lay before her, a choice no person should ever have to make. Take the food, risk whatever strings were tied to it. Refuse it, let the children starve today. The moral weight pushed down on her chest until she could hardly breathe. Eli broke the silence. I'll check the wagon. See if there's anything dangerous. She nodded, grateful for the boy's steady mind. He climbed inside, opening barrels, examining boxes. Nothing but provisions of every kind, too many, too fine. "This isn't charity," Eli whispered. "It's a debt waiting to be collected." Before she could answer, a distant sound carried across the plains. Hoofbeats. Not one horse, several. The rhythm was uneven, fast, urgent. The children turned toward the road, drawing close together. Sister Marin's pulse hammered. Riders meant questions. Riders meant trouble. Within moments, silhouettes appeared through the veil of snow, 5 deputies in dust-stained coats, rifles slung across their saddles. They didn't stop at the gate. They rode straight into the courtyard like men who had no time for permission. Their leader dismounted, snow crunching under his boots. His eyes went straight to the wagon. "Ma'am," he said, voice low and grim, "we're looking for a rancher named Rowan Hale." The name settled like frost in her bones. "And if that wagon came from him," the deputy added, "you and your children might be in more danger than you realize." The children stepped back. Eli swallowed hard. The deputy met her gaze squarely. "Where is he?" Sister Marin forced calm into her voice. "A rider left the wagon and disappeared. That's all I know." The deputy's jaw tightened. Behind him, the other men scanned the yard, eyes narrowing at every child, every corner, every shadow. One knelt and brushed snow off the wagon's wheels. "Tracks are fresh. He was here this morning." Eli stepped between them and the wagon, chin lifted. "What do you want with him?" The deputies exchanged glances, uneasy ones. "Rowan Hale," the leader said, "is wanted for murder." A ripple of shock went through the children. Sister Marin grasped the gatepost to steady herself. "He killed a man south of Red Creek Pass," the deputy went on. "A ranch hand. Cold blood." The name scratched at her memory. "R," signed on the parchment. "Rowan. But why bring food? Why leave without speaking?" Eli bristled. "You're sure it was him?" "Positive. Witnesses saw him." "Witnesses." In the West, that word stretched truth like taffy. The deputy turned to Marin. "He's headed north. If he stopped here, it's because he needed something. Food, shelter, maybe someone to hide him." "I don't harbor outlaws," she said firmly. The deputy's eyes flicked to the wagon, overflowing with enough provisions to start a winter storehouse. "That," he said, "says otherwise." Her stomach twisted. The men moved to search the grounds. Doors opened. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Children shivered under their scrutiny. The orphanage, already fragile, felt invaded, its quiet sanctity cracked open. During the search, Eli stayed near her side. "We should have left the wagon outside the gate," he muttered. "And risk someone stealing it before the children even ate," she whispered back. "We made the only choice we could." Hoofbeats thundered again, closer, faster, reckless. Everyone turned. A lone horse burst from the tree lean, hooves kicking up snow. A man leaned low over the saddle, broad shoulders, dusted hat, dark coat whipping in the wind. Rowan Hale. The deputies cursed, rifles snapping upward. "Hold your fire." Sister Marin shouted, but her voice was swallowed by chaos. The horse skidded to a halt just outside the fence. Rowan's eyes locked on hers, gray like storm clouds, full of regret and urgency. A ripple of shock went through the children. Sister Marin grasped the gatepost to steady herself. "He killed a man south of Red Creek Pass," the deputy went on. "A ranch hand. Cold blood." The name scratched at her memory. "R," signed on the parchment. "Rowan. But why bring food? Why leave without speaking?" Eli bristled. "You're sure it was him?" "Positive. Witnesses saw him." "Witnesses." In the West, that word stretched truth like taffy. The deputy turned to Marin. He's headed north. If he stopped here, it's because he needed something. Food, shelter, maybe someone to hide him. I don't harbor outlaws, she said firmly. The deputy's eyes flicked to the wagon, overflowing with enough provisions to start a winter storehouse. That, he said, says otherwise. Her stomach twisted. The men moved to search the grounds. Doors opened. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways. Children shivered under their scrutiny. The orphanage, already fragile, felt invaded, its quiet sanctity cracked open. During the search, Eli stayed near her side. We should have left the wagon outside the gate, he muttered. And risk someone stealing it before the children even ate, she whispered back. We made the only choice we could. Hoofbeats thundered again, closer, faster, reckless. Everyone turned. A lone horse burst from the tree lean, hooves kicking up snow. A man leaned low over the saddle, broad shoulders, dusted hat, dark coat whipping in the wind. Rowan Hale. The deputies cursed, rifles snapping upward. Hold your fire. Sister Marin shouted, but her voice was swallowed by chaos. The horse skidded to a halt just outside the fence. Rowan's eyes locked on hers, gray like storm clouds, full of regret and urgency. He raised a gloved hand. Sister Marin, step away from them. The deputies aimed. Rowan stared down the barrels without flinching. I didn't kill that man, he called out, voice breaking against the wind. But if you let them take me now, you'll never know the truth. The snow stilled. The world narrowed to a breath. Then the deputy barked, grab him. Before the deputies could mount, Rowan swung off his horse and raised both hands, not in surrender, but in a plea. Sister Marin, he said, voice low but carrying. Let me speak. Just for a moment. She stepped forward, ignoring the deputy's shouts. Why bring us food? His breath clouded between them. Because I knew you'd need it today. And because I owed someone here a long overdue promise. Her heart stumbled. To whom? He glanced past her, toward Eli. Eli stiffened, confusion flickering into realization. Rowan's voice softened. Your father was the foreman on my ranch. He saved my life more than once. When he died last winter. I swore I'd look after you. Eli's jaw trembled. You knew my pa. Knew him, Rowan said, emotion cutting rough through the words, and admired him more than any man I've ridden beside. That simple truth cracked something in Eli, something long sealed by grief. He stepped forward. Then why are they saying you killed someone? Rowan swallowed. Because the man who died, was my own brother. Gasps rippled through the children and even the deputies paused. Rowan continued, voice unsteady. Someone framed me. My brother died protecting a deed, one that proves our land was swindled years ago. And the men who stole it, they needed a scapegoat. Sister Marin studied him. The sorrow in his voice wasn't the kind a guilty man manufactured. It was raw, trembling. The deputy leader spat, don't believe a word. He ran from us. Innocent men don't run. Rowan's gaze hardened. Innocent men run when the law belongs to the thieves chasing them. Silence. Heavy. Unyielding. Rowan turned to Marin again. I didn't leave the wagon as payment. Or pity. I left it because Eli has suffered enough loss. His eyes glistened. I had no right to show up here. But I wanted them to have a real Thanksgiving. Even if all I could give was food from a man everyone thinks is damned. Eli stepped closer, jaw firm. If my pa trusted him, then I do too. The statement hung in the cold air, fragile and brave. The deputies bristled. Rowan exhaled, shoulders sagging. Sister, I'll ride with them if you ask me to. But I needed you to know who I truly am. Wind hissed through the fence slats, tugging his coat like a premonition. And just as she opened her mouth to answer, one of the deputies reached for his rifle, finger curling around the trigger. "Time's up." The rifle lifted. Rowan tensed. Eli shouted, "Wait." Sister Marin stepped between the gun and the outlaw, arms spread. "You will not shed blood on this ground." Her shout cracked across the courtyard like a whip. Even the wind hushed. Rowan stared at her, stunned. The deputies hesitated, more out of shock than mercy. She turned to them, voice trembling but resolute. "You came seeking justice. Then let justice be done properly. This man says he was framed. Prove he's lying, don't gun him down in front of children." The leader's jaw flexed. "We don't have time for trials. The men who own Red Creek want him delivered today." Marin's eyes narrowed. The men who own Red Creek, or the men who killed his brother? The question hit like a thrown stone. The deputies shifted uneasily. Doubt began cracking through their certainty. Rowan lowered his hands slowly. "I have the deed they killed him for. Hidden. If you let me retrieve it, this ends without." The leader shook his head. "Ain't risking it." It was Eli who stepped forward, tall, defiant, burning with the same fire his father once carried. "You don't trust him?" he challenged. "Fine. Then trust me. I'll go with him. If he runs, you'll still have the orphanage to search." The deputies stiffened. "Boy, this isn't." "It's exactly my business," Eli cut in. "That man rode here to keep a promise to my father. He didn't owe us anything. But he came anyway." Rowan's throat bobbed. He hadn't expected the boy's loyalty, certainly not earned it. The deputy leader looked between Rowan, Eli, Sister Marin, the children watching with wide, frightened eyes. Finally, he spat snow from his mustache. 1 hour. Bring back proof, or we drag him from this yard in chains." Rowan nodded once, grateful, determined. He mounted, then extended a hand to Eli. "Ready, son?" Eli climbed up beside him. Together they rode through the falling snow toward the hills. They returned 47 minutes later. Rowan carried a rolled parchment tied with twine. The deputies examined it, the original land deed. The seal. The signature. And the forged copy pinned on Rowan days earlier. Truth lay bare in ink. The deputy leader exhaled a long, bitter breath. "Damn. You were telling the truth." Rowan's eyes glistened with relief, sorrow, exhaustion. "I've been running a long time." The deputy nodded. "You're free to go." The children erupted in cheers, small, joyous echoes warming the frosted yard. Rowan knelt before Eli. "Your father was a good man. He'd be proud of the one you're becoming." Eli swallowed hard and threw his arms around him. Rowan hugged him back, fierce and grateful. Sister Marin approached, voice soft. "Will you stay for supper, Rowan? After everything?" "I think the children would like that." Rowan looked at the wagon he'd left, already being carried inside to prepare a feast that would be remembered for years. He nodded. "Yes, sister. I'll stay." That night, the orphanage glowed with warmth, laughter, and the smells of a feast they never thought they'd have. Rowan sat among the children, telling stories of the plains, of Eli's father, of hard lessons carved into the land. Later, years later, Eli would remember that Thanksgiving as the night he regained more than a protector. He gained family. And the final image, framed in lantern light, a weary rancher at a long wooden table, surrounded by children who finally believed in miracles again, with a wagon full of love waiting quietly in the snow.